one practice that we do that we inherited from another company was, and that way there's a kind of structured way to like evaluate and assess what we've done well, what we haven't at a functional team level.
Have you ever had one of the that was just like totally shocking?
For sure. I mean, it's not done right unless there's shocking things that are being. The whole point is like radical candor. It can get mega spicy.
Welcome to the next episode of One Size Fits None. Have a very special guest here, Justin Etkin, the founder and COO of Tropic. Justin, nice to see you today.
Great to see you as always.
As always. For those that do not know Tropic does AI spend management. They've raised little over 67, I think 67.1
Yeah,
million,
right, exactly.
To be precise, and is a homegrown New York City company, growing and doing extremely well. So glad you could take some time out of your schedule to join us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So before we jump in, I'd like to give everyone a little bit of context on your background. And so for my trying to do a little bit of homework, it looks like you've been in a number of different operational roles at a MarTech company, BounceX, now Wonderkin, before Tropic. And then since founding Tropic in 2019, you've been the COO. And so what does COO means a lot of different things at a lot of different companies. Can you give us a sense of your sort of scope of operations here?
Yeah, totally. I think, COO co-founder means half the time I'm spent doing co-founder related things, trying to set the strategy for the business, and half the time spent doing COO things, which means making sure the business is actually running the way it's supposed to. So it's a blend of both worlds, deep in the details in some ways, and then trying to operate in the clouds on other days.
Bouncing between the two. And then can you give us a sense, whatever you're comfortable sharing, for sort of size and scale of Tropic?
Yeah, totally. We are about close to 200 employees, mid millions in ARR, mid double digits at millions in ARR.
There's only mid millions and 200 people.
Yeah. And we're a fully remote company. We have kind of people scattered all over the country. Grew up during COVID. So while a lot of our executive team, founding team is all New York based, people spread across the country, internationally, et cetera, which has posed all kinds of fun operation scaling challenges.
Right. So you're sort of one of this new breed of founders that basically built a company during COVID, which is an interesting example, and like sort of part of the premise of this podcast is that there's not like one single formula you can follow to build a company, and what you went through is a great example of that. You can read all the books in the world. There's not a single thing out there that tells you how to build an organization during a global pandemic.
Yeah, when the entire kind of world shuts down for 8 months and you still want to build a business, how do you do that? Yeah, there are no rule books on that part.
No rule books. So let's get into how you currently run the business, and then I'd love to actually hear some of those early stories from COVID, if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah.
And any lessons learned, I guess, just in case it happens again. First off, an easy way I always like to sort of think about running an org is just in terms of, daily, weekly, monthly. What are the different processes? Like, how do you think about it? What does that structure look like? What's your playbook?
Yeah, totally. I can start kind of high level in terms of strategy setting down to kind of what that means for a day-to-day operation. So, we as a business typically set strategy on like 6-month increments. We have our vision, which is our 3-year. If we accomplish what we want to, Tropic will achieve X, Y, and Z in the world. And visions in general, we don't expect to change very often, except when there's kind of major, movements in the market, major evolutions of the company that require a vision change. So within that, we then set our 6-month strategy, which is like usually a statement or something that represents what we're trying to achieve over the next 6 months. And we set those strategies basically at the founder level. So me and my co-founder will get together to set what we believe to be the strategy for the following 6 months. And that leads to basically a cascade of information and discussion with our executive team. We've got a pretty well-functioning, well-oiled executive team of a bunch of seasoned leaders in functional leadership areas. And so we rely on that group to pressure test, to guide, to support decision-making we make, and to follow through on the strategy that we're setting. So 6-month strategy. Every quarter, we get together with our executive leadership team for an offsite, which is kind of either changing the strategy, depending if we're on the 6-month increment, or setting the goals and priorities for the next 3 months based on our current 6 month kind of strategy term.
Why, if I could ask, was it always 6 months? Did you go through some iteration to land on that? What is that the right? How'd you get there?
In the early stages, there was definitely no like cadence that we considered as part of strategy setting. It was like when a bunch of people sitting in the room together, it's more like strategy is a living, breathing concept, and it's much more fluid. But as the team grows and we need to galvanize and mobilize hundreds of people against a concept, it becomes much more important to document, to communicate, and socialize the strategy as something that people can grasp onto and really understand and kind of action against on a day-to-day basis. So that probably started to change in the 100 150 employee mark, where we had to get more thoughtful around strategy. And the reason why was because we started to realize different people across the organization had different ideas or thoughts around what our strategy was. And that's because it was so fluid and organic. If you weren't part of this conversation here, that meant you didn't have the latest and greatest on what the strategy meant over there. And getting together and really cementing what that meant and needs to look like allows for a better communication cascade out to the company, so everyone is dialed in and knows exactly what to expect.
Right, makes sense. How much change is there, like sort of 6 month period to 6 months? Will you go ahead and like realign the org, get to like that level of things based on strategy changes, or is it sort of there's one big one and then one that's like a little bit more of an update?
Yeah, I think when we think about our cadences now for our kind of strategy setting, there's really like the go-to-market functions, call it, for us, that's sales, account management, support, the way that we engage and touch customers. And then there's our R&D and marketing orgs. Like those are the kind of the two pillars, and they work hand in hand. Marketing and product is working off of a strategy cadence around building and shipping the things that we believe are aligned to our forward-looking strategy. So we set the pillars and what they should be building, and they go out and build and coordinate around the release cadence, how we're messaging it out to the market, and make sure that we're landing the things that we want to. So that team works very well together. And then the go-to-market team is kind of working in support of the product and marketing, alliance, because as we ship and release new things, maybe that changes, the ICP of our customer base. Maybe it changes the personas or the people that we're talking to, necessitates new motions or new muscles that the team needs to build in terms of how we speak to what we do, how we deliver our solution in as effective way as possible. So there's kind of this like offset between the marketing and product machine and the go-to-market machine, and they're working kind of in tandem, but like marketing and product always leading the charge, and go-to-market as a kind of a follow-on function.
Right. Okay. All right. So every 6 months and then every quarter, you're getting the whole team together. When there's a big strategy update, it's to make sure everyone's on board, make any adjustments you need. And then the other quarterly one, sort of more minor adjustments.
Yeah, that's right. It's like every quarter we're setting goals, and we run an OKR cadence, and we're an OKR company. So every quarter we're setting OKRs that are related to that strategy. And basically the point of the executive team get-togethers is, let's make sure that we're still aligned on the strategy. Like, we're a startup, we can't like rest on our laurels too much to say like the strategy is a strategy, like we can't change it. So we're ready. If we need to change it, we can. If we're good with it, then let's realign and reset on priorities and goals for our respective functions. And so that's a big moment for that group together to make sure that we're focused on like what our respective function goals are based on what the kind of the landscape looks like. One practice that we do that we inherited from another company was we do this exercise called observations, learnings, or do differently, double down, OLDD. And the idea of that is every quarter, everyone on our executive team will reflect on the past quarter and share observations and learnings. And with those observations and learnings, they'll share things that they want to double down on or things that we want to do differently around. And that way there's a kind of structured way to like evaluate and assess what we've done well, what we haven't at a functional team level. And we bring a lot of that content into our executive team meetings so that we can have the foundation for these conversations present and use that as discussion fodder and things that we want to update, change, or do differently.
Right. Have you ever had one of the OLDDs that was just like totally shocking?
For sure. I mean, it's not OLEDs done right unless they're shocking things that are being. The whole point is like radical candor. Like this is the moment to air whatever you're seeing or thinking, both within your org and outside your org. So it can get mega spicy.
Oh man, can you give us a nugget? You don't have to name names, of course.
No, it's just like one function. There's the calling out from one function to another where this job seems so easy. Why can't like what? Why is this? Why are we struggling so much in this area? Like this feels like it should be so easy, and and those kinds of moments where it's all with positive intent. So I make it sound a lot worse, but the soft calling out of each other's functions and orgs can definitely happen in OLDDs.
Does sales take the brunt of that or engineering?
I can't
And can't,
share more
can't
details
confirm
than
or
that.
deny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's it. All right. Fair enough. All right. So you have those and you do those at the offsites? You do those quarterly?
we do those remotely in advance of the offsite so that our offsite is taking the output of those conversations and incorporating into our agenda and into our like major discussion topics.
One thing, not to go off topic too much, but it sounds like you run a lot of offsites if you're doing one a quarter.
Hmm.
And is that the whole leadership team, whole company?
Executive team, so call it 8 people, like the main functional leader within each area. It's 2 days. It's not like a full week offsite type thing. Highly focused. Usually what we try to do is like 3 meaty discussion topics, often something related to product strategy, often something related to some sort of change management that's happening in the organization, like getting alignment on what that's going to look like, who's doing what, and what the expected outcomes are, and then some other topic that might be the topic du jour. So that's like 3 meaty things that we can really chew off in the 16 to 20 hours that we have together productive time. And it's also like, because we're a remote company, it's an excuse to make sure everyone's getting together in person, breaking bread, making it fun too.
Yeah, yeah. No, getting offsites right is this whole giant complex thing that
It's a lot of work. I mean, it's a ton
yeah,
of prep. The offsites are only as good as the I'm prepping for one right now. It's next week, and the quality of the discussion is directly related to the quality of the prep that goes into it.
totally agree. Totally agree. Okay, very cool, very interesting. All right, getting back to your team, and then so how do you sort of monthly, weekly, daily? What does the cadence look like for you, like running your organization?
So we went to quarterly where we're setting our goals and OKRs. The monthly things, the main thing that's happening on a truly monthly basis is, well, so, in the background, each executive that we've agreed on OKRs is now like driving their team to their OKRs. The goals that we set, the tracking, the measurement, and there's kind of like ongoing report out that's happening as part of that. On a monthly basis, the biggest thing that's probably happening is like product roadmap alignment and go to market priority alignment, and we're doing a check-in on what's important to us as an organization and how are we progressing towards those important things. Product is, we're not on a strict release cadence, but typically we're shipping things every month. We want to make sure that every month we're syncing up and making sure our product priorities are aligned with what the customers need, with what the vision is driving towards. Otherwise, monthly is a bit lighter. We then move into like weekly, bi-weekly. Every 2 weeks, we do company all hands, 45 minutes, share what's going on. One thing that we've determined is really, really important for 2025, getting more stakeholders in the organization talking and sharing about things that they're doing that are cool and the right behaviors that we want to be highlighting. There's been a lot of all hands of me and my co-founder just like waxing philosophic on all the things. So we're trying to engage more from the kind of grassroots and everyone share individual stories that are exciting so that we can talk about what's happening boots on the ground as part of our all hands. So
How do you approach like sourcing those and choosing which ones to share in front of everyone?
our people team is responsible for the like agenda of the all hands. So, and people team is working with me and my co-founder to highlight what do we think the company needs to hear about. I'm typically aware of the big wins, the big learnings, and so I'm often presenting ideas that we think would be good to highlight for the rest of the organization, and then they're going out to solicit the specific examples with the functional leader and making sure we've got a good example or two to highlight, for the story that we're trying to tell. That's typically how that comes together. So we have our executive team. I said 8 people or so. One step below that is our department heads, and so that's like one level down, includes executive team, but then also other functional leaders that have teams, manage teams, and we have a department heads meeting every 2 weeks where we are basically communicating and sharing updates that the full department heads team needs to know. We also do shout outs every 2 weeks as part of department heads, so that we can acknowledge and share the highlights for what's going well in the organization. And that's a really we started implementing that because it's an important information cascade moment. We make a lot of decisions, we share a lot at the executive team level, and we need to make sure that we funnel those things to our department heads that can then funnel them down to the rest of their teams. So important kind of communication layer. And that takes us to weekly. So weekly exec team meeting, for an hour and a half. Everyone, we get together. It's the most important meeting of the week.
When do you do it?
Mondays, 12:30 to 2 p.m. Eastern,
Okay,
in
great.
support of our Pacific time people and making sure that they're not
Yeah,
getting crushed.
make sure they have the coffee.
Every week in advance of the executive team meeting, we have an asynchronous document that we fill out that says status updates, what's going well or wins, what's challenging or problems that we're seeing, and blockers. Everyone fills that out before the meeting. We can comment, we can review, and discuss any of the issues as part of the executive team meeting. But then the executive team meeting also has an agenda that we discuss and talk through to make sure that we're covering the biggest and most important areas for that, to kick off the week every week.
And do you just like pull that together in a Google Doc or something?
Google Doc. Yep.
Nice and
Nothing
simple.
nothing
Yep.
fancy.
Nothing fancy. Got it. Okay. All right. Exec meetings Mondays, midday. Like it. All right. What else?
So then we move into like one-on-ones. I'm like, contrary to, the Jensen school of thought or whatever, like I still have one-on-ones. Maybe call me
Whoa.
old-fashioned, like I'm
Oh my God.
old school, I guess. It's the former consultant in me that
Do you at least
can't
have
adapt.
40 direct reports?
Yeah, right. Only, I think 5, 6 direct reports at this point. Still doing one-on-ones every week. No, I think the one-on-ones are critical, especially in an environment where we are remote. Maybe they're less efficient than the alternative where you can see people face to face and just talk about the things that matter in those moments. But in a remote environment, it's critical to set that time to be prepared to discuss the things that matter and ensure that we've got kind of bi-directional visibility. Like my one-on-ones are all about me sharing the things that are top of mind that influence this org, whether either on behalf of the executive team or me personally as the co-founder, and my report sharing what they're seeing, the things that are going well, the problems that they need support with, resources, things to get unblocked, and making that a kind of a dialogue and discussion in our one-on-ones.
So you don't subscribe to the this being your like direct reports meeting and they come with the agenda. It's sort of a joint agenda.
It's a joint agenda. We have a means of, we use a tool to document what our one-on-one topics are going to be, and that way we've got a
What do you
shared understanding.
use?
We use Lattice for our one-on-ones, so we can keep track of what the agenda is and make sure that there's clarity and awareness going into it. Yeah, I mean the one-on-ones are, first and foremost, is an opportunity for my direct report to share, but I do believe in not barraging everyone with like the thoughts as they arise in my head in the moment. Like I try not to slack my VP or product every single time I have an idea about our product, because that I know that can be like destabilizing and like whiplash. So a lot of the thoughts get concentrated into the one-on-one, get written down there so they can be discussed in a more kind of focused and strategic way.
It's remarkable self-control for
Yeah,
a
it's taken a
founder.
lot of discipline to go down that path, and it's different for every person. I think that reporting relationships is really about meeting each other. In some cases, like someone has to meet the other one more where they are. I think like I'm fluid enough in how I kind of work with others that I can, if this person needs things to be done a certain way, like I can adapt. If I need my things done a certain way, they can adapt. And so it's about kind of figuring out what the right approach works. So all of my one-on-ones are different with each person based on what matters in our styles.
Interesting. Okay. Without going on a tangent, like, we've talked about this a little bit before and with my co-founder Max about how a lot of like the way like software is built for different like teams and managers and leaders is sort of this like one size fits all from HR. And so it sounds like what you're sort of getting at, our belief at Windmill is like that's not the way people work. We're all a little different. We have different ways. You manage people like different, you might have even just like different teams you like run in a different fashion. And it sounds like you basically take that approach where, you're not trying to have a single, one size fits all approach to your team. You're customizing
Yeah.
it to your people.
I mean, it makes total sense to me if you are managing 10 sales reps, 10, account managers, and like time is insane and you need to create a very structured, standardized approach for managing those direct reports. Creating your one size fits all as the manager and leader of that team, I think can make a lot of sense. In my case, I'm talking to a bunch of other like seasoned executives, adults that like have their own styles and their own approaches, and like it's there are plenty of founders that would say like this is my way, like you do it my way, and that's not my style. Like I think more collaboratively around how we want to work well together, and that can take different flavors for different people.
No, that's great. I could not agree more. I think you might be the first exec I've heard like really articulate it in such a sophisticated fashion, though, that they're like running their team that way. A lot of people like intuitively do it. Like I had very different personalities on my teams, and would do that, but even what wasn't necessarily as like deliberate about it as you're talking about. So we covered a lot in how you sort of run your team and structure your team. One thing I'm really really curious about is, there's a lot of everyone's sort of trying to figure out how to use these various AI tools for a bunch of different things. There's a lot of sort of infusing a company's product with AI. And then separate from that, a lot of organizations are sort of trying to be thoughtful about how they implement AI across their workforce, what that means, how they get the team to be more productive, efficient, etc. Are you starting to explore any of the new tools out there for those kind of things, or where are you on that journey?
I have lots of thoughts on this, so let me try and figure out how to approach it. I'm a general laggard on adopting of anything innovative and like new and fun. So like the AI adoption story for me is still one that is being written. That being said, like I have seen it firsthand, the immense amount of efficiency opportunity just in terms of having a Claude license or a ChatGPT license and doing things that normally would be taking hours to do can be done much faster when properly harnessing AI. And that's not just about like chat, like learning information or chatting. It's like using some of the structures and tools. We've been playing a lot around with like Claude projects. How can we upload information into Claude and say like I want more like this, or tell me what's different about that, and distillation of of documents and plans and things like that. It can be massively more efficient. I see the value of it. I know the value of it, and I've been very focused on trying to impart this value to my teams so that they can self-discover and learn and use it for themselves. And one of the ways that I found to be valuable with this is we have a team that's a very like services focused, human centric team. And like if you read the AI lore, like these are the types of people that are most positively impacted because it takes the otherwise manual nature of services that they do and creates a lot of automation and efficiency within it. Trying to take that to heart, I go to the manager of that team and say, you, sir, are now one of the foremost experts on AI at Tropic, and I want you in 2 weeks to go to our department heads, and you're going to share what you are doing with AI to make the team more efficient. And so, it's like there's a directive part of that from me as the manager to this person, knowing that there's a lot of value and efficiency to be gained there. And it's also what I've found to be important is like going back to what I was saying about all hands, people getting up and speaking to the way they're using things and finding efficiency in front of their peers creates a level of accountability around the value that they're getting from these tools and these systems that otherwise, like behind closed doors or in whatever quiet corners, wouldn't be the same. What I found is like creating massive amounts of accountability for leaders of teams, operational support to go solve problems with the tools that are available, and then to take ownership of it, sharing it with peers, stakeholders, so that it becomes their solution, creates the best kind of version of driving a lot of this efficiency.
Totally, totally great. So now will you extend that to, someone starting to use Claude is more productive, but will you extend that into like goal setting? So you're setting your OKRs for them for like the next quarter. Are you starting to like sort of raise the bar as you're starting to hopefully see more productivity per person, or not quite there yet?
Yeah, I think quantifying it is so there's some of the no regrets kind of opportunities and applications for this. Like some of it's around productivity and efficiency. So the services team, we've been able to vastly reduce the time that it takes for them to do tasks that they had otherwise done manually. They're part of our like product and solution experience. So the faster and the more efficient they can do them, the more they can do and the higher quality they can do them. So like there are very much goals and OKRs that are now being tied to leverage of AI tools to drive more and faster output than had existed previously. We're not quantifying it down to as like 50% efficiency gains, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of like false precision that can go into that, but we are assuming the efficiency that can be done and reflecting it based on the output of that action that they can now deliver. On the other hand, like one of the things that we did with our sales team is we built out these like persona agents in Claude. We have a ton of content and material around what personas do what within our kind of ICP and our customer base. But it's all written. It's all these decks. Like no one reads it. It's like not easy to parse through. So upload that stuff, build little agents that can then assume the personality of these personas and like give that to our sales team. And so the value that they're going to get is not necessarily more efficiency, but the quality of their content, their talk tracks, their delivery should be much better. And that's the other way that we're trying to quantify and actually incorporate into goals.
Right. When onboarding a new rep, they have to pitch the AI agent
Right.
and see if they can get them to buy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Very cool. A little bit more forward looking quick and we'll wrap up in a few minutes. But you're sort of experimenting with these AI tools. You're part of a very successful, fast growing startup. Where do you think this is headed from a management perspective? Like, how's your behavior, do you think, as a manager, leader, founder of an organization going to change over the next few years? Are we going to see AI agents on the org chart? Are you going to have people in your organization that are just orchestrating a bunch of agents? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I let me share the things that I know that will happen, and like the things that I can believe from there that might happen. Like the things I know will happen is the idea of like prepping for a meeting with reviewing information like manually is going to completely go away. Like it's already happening where there's enough dossiers and prep docs and guides that are just pulling in unstructured information from Slack, from Zoom, from whatever. Like there's so much of that that's going to be available that for a leader that's got finite time, that's going to be the new norm for how you prepare and engage for meetings and conversations with people to get context on what that looks like. So eliminate all minutes, hours spent, at the beginning of meetings to catch people up on, here's the update. Like updates are going to be created and surfaced automatically for all the stakeholders without having to spend the time both creating that update and also then surfacing it, sharing it, and reading it in the meeting. That's like my for sure is going to happen. And what that's going to mean for someone like me is I'm like a like Slack obsessed person, and what that looks like is like the kind of Slack overlord that's like in every channel, like reading and looking and keeping tabs on what's happening in the business. Like it's part of what I think is my superpower, but also like a huge time suck and detriment to ongoing productive work. The Slack overlord concept may go away when digests are being surfaced that synthesize all the information exactly the way that I want it when I want it, so I don't have to be task switching and spending as much time kind of in real time keeping up with what's going on across the organization. If you take that further, I think what you could start to see is like your, at least for like the founder perspective, is like the chief of staff agent that exists, right? Which is the like ever present, you know, entity body that is attending meetings, is following on in different conversations and channels, and instead of just like surfacing information back to the avatar owner, it's actually acting and guiding and nudging, which is a lot of the stuff that I do right now. It's like my job is to see these projects and things that are happening and nudge them in the direction that I think they should be if they're starting to go off track. Having a native agent that can know what I'm thinking, what I'm believing and hearing, to be able to take those nudges and do it without me, I think is definitely something we will see, in the next, couple of years.
I could not agree more. Awesome, very cool. I mean, this is amazing. Thank you, Justin, for the time and sharing all this. I mean, there's so many different nuggets in here from, yeah, 6 month strategy, quarterly offsites, then how you structure, monthly, weekly, being pro, one-on-ones. There's very good reasons why. For what it's worth, I think they're like a very important utility to some people. It makes a ton of sense, to do very frequently. Others different, but I'm not in either of the religious camps. And then how you're starting to use AI agents. Any closing words of wisdom? Someone running a rapidly scaling tech company.
I would say that building your team and knowing what your strengths and weaknesses are is like the key to success of scaling an organization. If you don't know what your strengths and weaknesses are, go get an executive coach who can help figure that out for you. And if you do know, like, stay fluid, understand that things change over time, and what was a strength at one point may become a weakness at another point, and be constantly kind of questioning and challenging yourself to evolve with the organization.
Great advice. Anything we should know about Tropic?
Tropic is great. If you need to create a solution that's going to help you save money in your organization, save time in your organization when it related to vendor spend, Tropic's the leading player that's out there, combining data and intelligence both in your organization and across the network of vendors and suppliers that we work with. We're helping a lot of companies save millions and millions of dollars.
So if any company needs either more time or money, which I think I've heard of that before,
Yeah,
companies needing that, give you guys a call. Check
that's
you
right.
guys out.
Yep. Well, we're here for it.
Thank you so much, Justin. Really appreciate it. Great to chat.